So our first tandem is actually here. We have Hede Kersti, Luik and Margit Raid. So you are management coaches, if I can say so, and you have your own podcast, which is called Tandem. But before we talk about Tandem, so can you talk about yourselves a little bit? Where did it all start? Who are you? Where did you come from? How come you're here together? Yes, indeed. Sometimes it happens that you have good working relations and they come from the background of entrepreneurship. It's the same which happened with us. So we were friends at work, then outside work, and then we understand that there is something else which would fit into the space. So this is our background. So now if you look at this separately, so what you do today, Hede? I work with people, understanding people, helping people, listening to them with strategies, getting things done. So it's good. You must be the best person in Estonia, somebody who listens. And it's very nice for me to be her tandem partner. So coaching all day long and strategies and helping companies. Well, also communication management, because all these days are different. Margit? Most of my work is involved with EBS, with the continuous education, where adults want to learn more and to improve, so that in order to get into entrepreneurship. And I'm also related to business relation management and listening to people as well. And I think that there is a part of me which thinks about this podcast as well. What happens tomorrow and how we can prepare for it. So there is also time to futurology, and it's not only that you go and listen, but there is also something there where you look for something. There's something ongoing. And when we started with this tandem, we felt that you have to start somewhere. You have to get this additional push. We heard from the minister that the minister recommended to have a trio as an ideal management function. Why for you is the best version tandem? Well, a trio could work really well as well. Sometimes it does, but sometimes it happens that there are some certain camps in trio. And they are not always, sometimes it's good and necessary, but sometimes it's an obstacle. And sometimes it helps if you have an equal partnership between two people. But three, does it mean that you have different camps then? Triangulation is very dangerous if two are against one, and then two against the third, and so it's very complicated. But you could also say it can be useful. Yes, indeed. If you're against one, no, rather to have a third view, and it helps you to get a new angle if you want to achieve something new and exciting. There could be energy pushing and pulling between three, and it might happen faster. But tandem at the same time is more courageous, so that two will start working, so they are mutually complementing each other. With trio, there could be some issues. If you have another Brit next to you, what would you do? It will be very complicated. But Brit smiles. I can't imagine how I would handle this other Brit. But between two of you, you have to think about yourself and somebody else, but it's three. Then you have to think about their relationships as well. So there are more interactions. But let's come from theory to practice, because I think we have a lot of listeners who understand this idea of tandem, because we have all seen the tandem bicycle. You have to cycle together. Have you ever been on a tandem bike? I have not tried it. So it's not very easy either. But the question is, so we have this kind of thought that one is a leader. And now, if you are running your own company or you're trying to solve the issues, you ask for advice, but you try to get things done by yourself. But if we're talking about the tandem all day long, is it something which is theoretical in nature, or is it a very practical construction? For me, it's very practical construction, because this is mutually complementing working relations where two people work together for the common goal. But it doesn't mean that there is no hierarchy involved, because if you talk about tandem in top-level management, then it means that one is who has to carry this responsibility, who is the chairman of the board. But at the same time, tandems could be also equal and complementing each other. Can you give us some examples so we know how it works? From history, for example. One of my favorite tandems are two people who ran an environmental company, and then they went on to start a startup. So there's a tandem relationship which has been improved over time. So they are very well complementing each other, and they are very good at setting targets for their team and the outcome. So there are many others as well. Can you give us any examples? Maybe the nature of the tandem, where this word comes from, it goes back to about 100 years, and it goes to a medical clinic, a Mayo Clinic in the United States. And what was the issue? It was 1908, and it was documented that there's a chief physician who had 5 sons who had started a clinic, and they are all medical experts, but they are not good for the business objectives which is related to aftercare, because once you had a medical intervention, you need somebody else there who is very good at nursing, in documentation, in patient service management until they go home and the treatment scheme is in place. So he used group practices model. So that means there was a possibility to have the chief physician and the head of nursing working together. So why was it important? Where the benefit came from is that we had experts of different fields, not 2 doctors who did a surgery and nobody looks what happens after. But that was the idea. This is where this professionalism started, where you don't have to compete with each other, but you have expert opinion, which is enriching, but it's also accelerating processes. But if we have the topic today, and it's an unusual year, 2022, but business acceleration through a tandem relationship where we have one objective and 2 people who are responsible for their own knowledge and the synergy, and you have 3 units of time. So it's 1, 2, and 3. So you have a way how you can solve an issue, and you have time units, would be a day or month or year, depends on the acceleration. But if you talk about tandem management, would it also mean something which is not often defined as a tandem, but this is how it works? Somebody who makes a decision, and there is somebody in the company who offers advice, HR, CFO, or somebody else. And this works in an organic way. And the decision comes. Yes, indeed. You might also have several tandem partners. So in order to achieve a certain goal, you have different tandem partners who work throughout this time units that Margit just described. You often don't have just one, you have tandem because you have your private tandem for one project or somebody else. Some have a shorter time frame. In our podcast, we have profiled different CEOs or experts. And if you were to ask me, who I would think about Mart Mägi, Margus Riik, who is the Barrister of the Year, and they say that my first tandem partner is the HR. And together we look at this, our staff. I will set the goal and they will bring the people, and together we have a good aim. So the courage to know that we have people who are brought in different tandems, but you might have one who's a lead, and then there is a support tandems network or hidden tandems. You might have a person whom you approach when you don't want anybody else to listen, and it's not even visible who you talk to, but you're doing things better, or you have heard the answer to come from yourself. If you talk about tandem relationship, does it also mean friendship or sympathy towards each other? Or you hate each other? Because there are different types of tandems. There are tandems we create and we choose. And sometimes in life you have this kind of tandems which are forced upon us in a certain context. They came with a certain role, or there is an owner's expectation. And there is this kind of issue that we can't choose based on our own desire. So we come back to this goal. So we have one goal and two people who are responsible, and you go together. So it doesn't matter if we want to do anything after work. If we have the same goal and it's been very clearly acknowledged and translated into your daily tasks, then it also works without this friendship component. And sometimes friendship can be an issue, actually, because you're afraid to tell your friend. Do you dare to tell your friend or not? Because often it is being said that you do dare to tell your friend. Well, there are different kinds of friendships, because I would also like to believe that with my friends, we can tell each other everything we need to tell. Does it always work like this with all the people? It's very hard to set the rule. But very good, we reached the friendship level now. And we could talk about the tandem, about thinking different kinds of organization. One, there was a CEO. So we have established organization. And then it's like you want to have a pie shop. And you think that sales are okay, but it could do better. And there are two levels. And so if you talk about the more down-to-earth approach, often it is within a family. We are interviewing people who have a family tandem. But if in my family we do not have anybody who's entrepreneurial, I'm looking at you in a wrong moment because you're very enterprising. But I wanted to say, so where can I find this tandem partner? Because there is no Tinder for tandems that are like this or does not like that. How can I find that partner? My first question is that what do I expect from this tandem? What do I need? And what are my characteristics which help us to earn money? And what is missing in order for me to earn money? And now we could look at the tandem partners amongst the people who have the characteristics that I'm lacking. So you can have a mutually complementing working relationship. So it's a very good point of departure, because usually we are afraid of people with whom we differ, but now we should approach them. So this pattern also should include exceeding your own abilities, because in business you need to push yourself into zone of discomfort. Not sometimes often, because you might have families and so forth. We don't know how things work with Brit, because you have to take into account what the situation is, that we have here double the tandem. So where the charm of Tandem lies, that if you're looking for Tandem partners, we are asking ourselves useful questions. They're beneficial, not always smart, and sometimes we go to someone whom otherwise we would not approach without this partnership offer. Yes, indeed. And now when you looked at me, what I wanted to say is that our Tandem, we are very creative, and at a certain point of time we understood what is missing in our Tandem. There's a rational side, and once we created that, then things started moving, because sometimes what happens is that you have very good Tandem and good ideas, but something is missing. And it was hard to say to each other that actually being honest, it's not me who is the business minded. I'm too creative. So we understood we need somebody who is an Excel person who creates a structure. And this is how things worked out. So indeed, would it be marriage or friendship? Sometimes it is not easy to understand that they cannot really do that. And it's actually, I'm doing a disservice if I'm trying to do something what I'm not doing, and then there's a stress and frustration, and then you give up. Although you're just missing is honesty, saying that we can't do that, and that's fine because we have other advantages, but let us take this extra person who creates this additional value, and then things work out. We have a small company and we have very close family relations, so it's not always easy. But honestly and exceeding your own capabilities is sometimes the key word in order to move forward. A good Tandem is always a reflection and asks questions, even if they are hard. So now, if you're looking at the business side of things, then businesses sometimes, a good business has a good vision, good energy and ability to fly, but sometimes they need somebody who is a good critic, who brings in the benefit of a doubt. So these are not easy discussions, and this is what you said before, Margit. And it might be hard to do that to your friend, because your friend wants to get you going. It doesn't want to ask you, are you really sure? So how do you divide these roles? Who is pushing more? Because we do not have a family relationship behind here, then I would say that we can let each other be. And we don't have to have too much of a push. We have a lot of trust capital involved. There is a thin red line, so you do not go below. And I think this being in a moment, if I may, that if there are certain understandings and you think, oh, there is something there, that if I know that there is something shared, that is fresh and sincere and it's elegant, this is why we want to create something, then it's worth the game. It's worth being part of it, because we have agreed on this, and it's kind of part of the background. We want to understand that if we're sharing something, then it creates value more than we would be doing it alone. And as we have a wider audience, as we have a Tandem here, then the courage to believe that there is something to share, maybe this is one of the stronger drivers. And when it comes to Hede, I think it was 2010 when we went to TED Global. And there are not many people from Estonia who has gone to attend a one-week conference where the program is very busy. And it was a black box room, there's a pre-sessions, and Hede whispers to me, let's do a blog. It was 2010. Let's have a blog, management blog. Well, I'm saying, well, no, I want to listen. But she opens up her laptop, and 3 minutes later I've created a blog in Blogspot. And now the question is, where do we share this? Then a little later she says we should go to Postimees. So by the evening we agreed with Postimees. We write every evening a blog post from Oxford, a certain number, and they share it. Can you have an objective and agree? No, you can't do that in advance. And this kind of strength that this is the person who's part of your network. Is it silly not to use this kind of power? Well, cool things start from this kind of moment of time when somebody has something to share. Or you think it's way too much, it's too crazy, but it's exactly so crazy, yet you will go along with the ride. I listened to you and then I thought the one thing which connects us is that a big part of our life is inspiring other people. And where do we get our own inspiration? So nature, our home partners, and what it is what we do together. Because this kind of reflecting ideas or being in the same room, there is the spark and energy and ideas, and things happen which otherwise not happen. The podcast, we are not really podcast people. Because I understood that you wanted us to be as podcasters. So are you a podcaster? What it's like? But it says very good. How it happened was the first wave of COVID and communication head of a hospital. It was a lot of work because there was crisis management team in a hospital. And then we had clients who were all in their home offices and everything was turbulent. Everybody was confusing. Nobody knew what was going to happen the next day. And we needed this time of reflection. And so we created the podcast. You were sitting on the floor of your wardrobe. So we were doing this for ourselves, that being in the home office, but we wanted to be inspired. We wanted to have this impetus, and this is the biggest strength, that this spark is coming from there. Tandem management is better than managing alone. Because of this inspiration, completing each other, having the expert opinions. But is it sometimes slow and you have to put things up and that, they talk about their own topics all the time? I'm not looking at Brit at all. But it's an example. It might sometimes be a lot slower and harder. Well, you might always have failures anywhere. And this is one of the reasons, coming back to this 1, 2, 3 model, if you look at the time units, if this been agreed, because we have agreements for the goal, for money, for time, because you have an arrangement. And one topic which we've heard, what people have said or reflected, is if you have 2 people who are responsible, does it mean that nobody's responsible? No, it doesn't quite. If you look at the Jõhvi School of Coding, and this is a contemporary learning environment, and this is where they recruited 2 managers, and there are 2 co-managers. This is the official title. And one important thing which we have not mentioned is authority. I have the authority in this sector, full autonomy, and I have authority in this sector. And as the minister said, we can be in tandem, it can be a trio, every day in the morning, 5 minutes, discussing what we're planning. And if the autonomy is in place, then it doesn't matter if you're one or other tandem partner, or is it a total of a trio. But if you are in the co-managerial role, then you have authority to keep a certain structure. So it's freedom within these restrictions, which is agreed upon in advance. This is a mandate. So maybe the warning is that if you want a tandem partner to share responsibility or push the responsibility of yourself, then it is not a good project. My question is that For business, for entrepreneurship, timing is a key. Like your first blog was born at a certain moment of time. So what does it take from the tandem partner? Only confidence? Or if you have one partner who understands that now is the time to do this, but the other one is not coming with you because they can't understand that this is a suitable moment. What do you do in this case? And how do you prepare your tandem partners yourself? Or what should you develop in order to have this timing trust? Because some have a better sense of this moment and others are better at implementing.
Two techniques. The first is to agree that there's one day of the week when you can say things to each other. It's like meeting reality. For example, from 10 to 11, communist talks or whatever. So that's what's one technique. When you know in advance that now you might hear these reflections that I might not like, and later you walk around with this face, I had a meeting with reality. But when you're at home, then you can't even leave. Well, the alternative is that you never meet reality and live in a false reality and run around as the naked king. That's one technique, yes. And the second option is where you can fine-tune the timing, is a little notebook where you write crazy ideas. And if you don't dare to show your notebook, then make a photo of it and send that. These are my crazy ideas. And to also perceive other people. You cannot always approach all people in the same way, and others have their own challenges. I remember one of our podcasts with a guest who gave a great tip. If I'm at home and in the evening and for several days I feel that this one colleague is with me all the time, then there's something that is unresolved at work. And at the end of the day, nobody really wants to end up in this situation that you always feel like this tandem is with you at home. Well, except for us. So I think that it's important that you don't lose yourself. You have the right not to lose yourself. And this tandem idea, I stated it, we came out with it where all the training gurus were also turned down, and nobody knew what will come, and coaching relationship, mentoring relationship, partnerships had not been replaced with walking meetings yet. But the people who are used to reflecting to each other or going up to someone and saying, I need to figure out what's the most important question I want to resolve today, then this tandem relationship, listening to each other and valuing each other, is excellent. And maybe you just need somebody to listen to you and you don't want them to say anything at all. So maybe it landed at the right time in the right place because many people were left at home alone. We're halfway through, and I'd just like to state that you can submit questions. So you can ask questions from both tandems, but primarily from our guests, Heda, Kerstin and Margit. And if you are watching us through workshop live, then you can do that. If you are watching us on YouTube later, then write them a message privately. But basically, submit questions. I'm sure there are questions that we don't ask with Brit. But now, let's speak about the tandem system. You have thought it through very thoroughly and set it forth very dynamically because you consult and train other people. Now, when we look at the first point and being aware, then how would you explain it, describe it? How to create awareness? And what does it mean in the structure of a tandem? And the background is that you have an 8-point scheme, or just 8 points, the 8 advantages of a tandem, and the first of them is awareness. For me, awareness means that I'm conscious of what I'm doing and what. That's the agreement on the targets. Much easier to do things ambiguously, but it doesn't bring much of a result. Easier. I would contest. If I don't know where I am and where I'm going, then it's not easy. It's not easy. Sometimes at home, when I look at the kids and when they're struggling with their studies, then it's a similar situation. Don't really understand why I'm doing it, where I'm going. Quite sort of humane. But they're children. Yes, and well, when we speak about the education system, then we'll go on for hours. But the education system actually would gain greatly from clearer goals and agreements. Excellent idea. I'm afraid that if here and now we wear out the word tandem, then in my lifetime I have worn out the word target. But it starts from the target. We know what we're aiming at and what are the agreements on how to achieve it. Awareness also has the aspect of, since we already mentioned education, well, it unites all of us. Exactly. And this morning, when we were driving to school, then I told my child that I'm in a hurry, I'm going to go into a tandem with another tandem. And so my child in the back seat said, so it's like a fourth one. And, 2 tandems, a tandem of 4. So it also means that we meet up and discuss and then work alone again. So that is excellent for learning and also making sure that the information sets in. And it's similar to the medical system. And maybe 2 teachers in front of the classroom is actually very beneficial. And 2 people on stage as well. Have you performed on a big stage where you feel anxious? Yes, of course. But when you're alone on stage, or there's a tandem on stage when you think about this. Well, it's cozier right now. So why am I drawing attention to awareness through public speaking? When I have a public speaking event with 2 people, I start preparing earlier. And when we need to speak alone, then how often do we talk it through with somebody else and reflect? Do you look in the mirror? And you said you have kids at home. I haven't spoken about the mirror yet. Awareness is very important, and I agree, of course, that otherwise you are just running in random directions. Sometimes that is necessary as well for creativity. Noticing is easier when you have several sets of eyes. When we work with groups together so that both of us are in the room, then I would say that the quality is exponentially better, not just twice as good, because when I'm doing something, the other one notices. So you don't need to divide up your attention and speak and notice all at the same time. So that's also a key to this success when we speak about awareness. Let's continue the 8 advantages of a tandem. And second point is complementing or enhancing. Well, when you have started thinking that maybe I have more to offer in business, or like you say, the same cafe, that it seems okay, clients come and products have flavor, but when something is missing and you are doubtful, then I think you should think about that maybe you are stuck in automation, and the partner to turn to is when courage is bigger than dreams. You turn to somebody who has this halo effect or authority, and you think, oh, I want to work with that person, but I am scared to. Why not? The simple question is, have you tried? Have you tried? Have you tried to exceed yourself in order to bring something to a new level? So exceeding yourself and also involving an expert from a slightly different field to fulfill your goals is a very powerful tool. And the simplest thing is the time factor, especially when you produce and act and work like a bakery. You bake and do everything. You don't have the resource and the time to think beyond, because on a daily basis you have to implement. So we can also speak about a business. You have to manage structures on a daily basis. You don't actually have the resource to expand because you don't have time to think about it, because you have to manage what exists. So a tandem and complementing each other is very necessary to go bigger. Yes, and like the first speaker said in the morning, that the fresh ideas come when different sectors meet. So innovation comes from the crossings. It's a new angle, it's a new aspect. You might create a much more interesting pastry if you bring in an Italian baker, for example, or if you bring in somebody who has managed a car repair shop and who improves the process. And the third advantage of a tandem is being targeted. What does it mean? This is Hede's word. Look at her. Well, a single target, two implementers, two critics, two analyzers, etc. It's easier to stay on track when you have agreements with somebody else. Why has coaching become so contemporary? Because when the manager has proved something to the coach, then shame also makes people move. With the tandem partner, it's better because we are moving towards the joint target together. I can't let her down. I've told Margit that I will be in the studio today. I can't not come, right? If you're very targeted and entrepreneurial in character and brave as well, then it might be easy to set the target. You put down some keywords about your passion and vision and ideas. But if you are a bit timid, but you sort of feel that it's in you to go on this journey, then how do you word the target for yourself? What is a simple scheme to put down on paper? Where does it unravel from? That maybe I need to test it. Do you have some sort of a scheme? How to visualize and sketch the target. I like to start from the target, the result I want to create, and then I work my way back. I start from the feeling. I believe that people are not rational beings, but emotional beings. You've heard so many times people saying that, I have this feeling, I have this feeling. Have you heard that? That's the Tandem. When you have dreams, then you start somewhere. But sometimes people are so modest and timid and say, maybe my dreams are not enough. Maybe I don't know how to dream. Then it's worth looking at a different area of work, read a biography or watch a movie, a documentary, something that helps your brain rest. But for being entrepreneurial, before you watch the movie, set a task for yourself. I want to find something in this movie for myself today. And our brain is a very loyal partner to us. Does not offer us a fast track when we have set a task for the brain. I'd like to comment on this feeling. Again, this bakery is a nice example. It is a very good target because you experience what you think about what you want to experience. I want to eat this French croissant. The taste of caramel and the butter. And then it's much easier to start creating it because many start at the other end. What are my skills? Am I capable? And then you think, oh, I don't dare to. You can increase your capacity. And just to add the previous example, up until now we've spoken about Tandem as partnership between two decision makers, but in our own experience and on our program, tandems can be with photography, nature, with the movie that Margit referred to. And so the way we bring in this enhancement, the sky is the limit. You need to be open. It doesn't necessarily have to be another person. No, you can create a tandem with art for yourself, or a dog, with a motorcycle. Well, and in some years we'll have robots. We already have them, yes. Let's leave it at that topic. But when we continue and look at the other advantages of a tandem, then the fourth point out of 8 is role model. What does that mean? How did you describe it? You have the cheat sheet. I remember this article was published a while ago. Checking your memory. Well, role model in the sense that often they say that you're alone at the top when the manager has a tandem partner. And then through being a role model, the manager guides employees to find tandem partners, which means that there's more energy and knowledge. These can be in-house, but also external tandem partners. Everything is strengthened when the manager with their own serving as a role model shows that tandems create something more valuable. I would also say the word talent. We hear about talent management and finding talent and retaining talent. And coming back to the bakery, we all have our own idea of this bakery. It's all different. But maybe there is a baker there who has a dream that they've never been able to execute. But when we ask that I need somebody to be in tandem with me in order to think about how we can reach our clients, because when we create this cozy atmosphere that we're all dreaming of, then that is not enough for a business. We need to find somebody who values it, who will come to enjoy it, somebody we are creating this environment for, somebody who will pay for it at the end of the day. So in bringing in talent, when I say that I need a partner who thinks along with me, and I show as an entrepreneur or manager that I don't know the answers to all questions and cannot know all of them. When I have experts, be they bakers or specialists from a car repair shop, give them a chance. When we give them a chance too, then we serve as the role model that show that good things come from discussion with your partner. And even in school, it takes 2 40-hour sessions for people to come back with mapping, with straight lines, rectangles, and triangles. So the systems that people create when they have freedom to be talents and perceive the objectives, it's a perfect outcome. Next advantage is change management. Hedes term. 2 words, actually. Yes, role model and change management are hers. Such a narrow world I live in. We live in a changing world, so to go along with it, it's easier to do it in a tandem. Yes, definitely. And again, it's about noticing. but also creating change whilst having awareness. Entrepreneurs need to be ahead of time all the time. They cannot just follow trends, but need to perceive the direction we need to change in. And my idealism says that entrepreneurs with their activities do guide the way and bring about change. They employ so many and affect so many processes. So it's definitely easier to have two people when we do something new. Then this doubtfulness and questioning is useful. And also stating very honestly that change also means abandoning something, giving something up. And it is difficult to give something up alone, to plan it alone. It brings about lots of emotions and doubts and lots of passions and grieving. Quite harsh. Well, yes, the tandem is the tool that helps you cope with it better, because if you have to give something up, you will experience these emotions anyway, and you just won't be alone. 6th point is expertise. What do you mean by that? Maybe that's my topic. Surpassing yourself and partnership.
So this is kind of a partnership where you both are experts in your own particular field. What are your expectations? What are the preconditions? So 1 + 1 equals 3, maybe 5 or 8 even. It's not enough. But the point really is that if you put 2 experts together so that the result is something more. Yes, maybe the deeper meaning would be that you should go outside your own field and take somebody and you can hear in their expert opinion which is important for you. You might hear a different story, because we all have our personal patterns. And if somebody can describe the expert opinion, then as I'm a coach on public speaking, I'm convinced that if you're talking about tandem, listening to yourself back through somebody else, it's where you meet your own expert opinion, because if they have not been able to discuss this, maybe then it's kind of halfway here or there. But if you request them into this kind of program and discuss their opportunities and their professional growth and their management culture and what their triggers are. So if somebody's been to the podcast or they are guest speakers in a seminar, and then in the evening they say that would have not been so aware myself without this discussion. Because if you talk, you hear yourself. Beneficial aspects of doubt, because we talked about it a little bit when we talked about change management, but maybe you want to say a little bit more why doubting is something you should encourage. Because it sounds like you are a weak manager. Because it could be yes or no. Benefits of doubt, because the value is in having a triad. So if you have an investment, and if I had a chance to think about it, or am I ready to lose it? If it's an investment, then it's a 50-50. Either I'm successful or not. Or is it going to go in a way that I can't even imagine today? As Ed has said, that I have certain dreams, and Ed starts from the end. I go out somewhere and I imagine the future. 2 years have passed from me making a certain decision. What's going to happen then? What was it that I did not notice? Where is my resource? Where I should create a window of opportunity to go with it. So this beneficial aspect of a doubt is also reflected in the clean aspect of tandems. When we are together, do we dare to say that we think that this is how it is or this is not how it is? Or if I'm going to invest into a new factory, what's going to happen next? So you have somebody by your side who will help you to doubt, well, this must come from your family. Then eighth benefit of a tandem. So eighth advantage is the power of a word. One options of tandem is tandem, being in tandem with yourself, with your inner dialogue. Because this inner monologue is actually 6 times faster than we are able to express in the Estonian language. And now this means that you can imagine that you get a phone call from your wife, and you ask, how did the meeting go? And Brit starts the answering, saying, no, actually, I went quite well. So what is the first word you hear? So what is the trigger after that word? How is it going to influence your way of thinking and reflect to Brit? It's quite interesting if you talk about children. Children have understood this. How did you go at school? And they say no, they don't say no. They say no, we're fine. Everything is good. And then you said no, well. And then you also had the parasite words that actually you went well. But then using this word actually can cause a storm, and it's very hard to turn this person back into objectivity, where you have more cooperation, not that there's a shock and you don't know what's going to happen next. And power of the word, often the manager often has to create meaning and communication. And better they have understood the power of the word with the tandem partner, better it is outside, so the back office before you get to the front office. So this is definitely where this power comes in. And if you're honest and sometimes ruthless as a partner, then I can test different ways. If you talk about the power of the word, it's safe if this agreement holds. If we can add anything else here, then you want to use a technique called simplification. As entrepreneurs, we are planning change and communicating change. If we're able to express our idea in 6 words, if we can clarify our message that you can use only 6 words. So we can start this process, we can do a lot. You don't need many words. Of course, these long, complicated sentences can be interesting in classical literature. Sometimes you would use a different language. But retelling might weaken the power of the word. Very good Estonian style advice. That you have to say less and then do more. But this is entrepreneurship seminar. So this is Estonian style entrepreneurship. In Italy, if we were to use that idea, I don't think it would have been so successful. So in their culture, they are called more complicated sentences. But tandems between cultures also show this power that you think that you know your target group, but then you hear something else, something which is a lot cleaner. It's so pure. So it's a clear mirror. So we should not underestimate this idea that there is a tandem partner who you should have outside. We know we have a lot of Ukrainians in Estonia, and tens of thousands. And if we were to presume that many of them do not speak English and a lot of people are speaking Russian, and we should use this, use an Ukrainian to help you. You have a completely different view, different culture, and it's a very bright mirror. I love this recommendation. I can imagine in the Fale building that help get the Ukrainians to help you, because sometimes it's very it's a good approach. So you can use ukrainianhelp.com. Now there's some questions as well. You can send some more questions. We have a few minutes left. So how do you solve differences of opinion? We talk and we listen. We ask questions. Or we can say that I don't have the strength today to answer. I can react to it a little bit later. Do you also let each other know? Because we have a lot of correspondence. There are chats in different channels, emails. And if the precondition is that usually you answer within a day, and now it's 11 p.m. and you think I'm going to sleep now, so you write that, look, I don't have the energy today. I can confess a secret. Well, nobody hears you today. It's just that it will remain amongst us here. There is a moment of time when you learn to recognize the patterns of your tandem partners. So the question is that if they are silent too long, so that means that they're doing something in a too intensive way, and my task is now to take a step back. So I help them in my mind, but I'm not going to pushing. So if there's silence from the other side, it's not time to push. So if there's silence, there is a reason. So then she's needed somewhere else. Our tandem is strong without hearing from her every single day. So confidence is the trust you gain over time. So the patterns, you should not get stuck in an automated way and not too much intervention, but courage to take a step back, knowing that your presence is there without the words. I don't want to leave with these bitter words, but there is a somewhat bitter undertone. How do you separate the tandem? Until you think of a good answer, because when we have a tool 1, 2, 3, one objective and 2 people, and the value over time is that it makes measurement easy. My friend said that marriage could be also a 7-year contract, and maybe you make more of an effort last year, so you can extend the contract. And when it comes to tandems, that we have a time frame in place makes it separation easier. But if you don't have the time frame in place, then what do you do? Tandem is an energy. Maybe we have some experience to say honestly that if you find that there is not enough energy left, that it becomes toxic, then if you have a certain feeling in tandem, you should trust that. But you can't just, you did not answer me yesterday, so therefore I'll call quits. Then it doesn't work like this either. So I would not encourage that either, but maybe it's a good thing to say that there are certain moments which I need to discuss with you. Or you can say honestly, look, that this is not going to fly. So 5 words, that's not flying enough. Why do you want to break a tandem up? Sometimes I can see that the objective is not there. If the objective has changed and smart people can discuss these things, the goal has changed, or we can see the cooperation does not serve this, or we can be quite constructive. And in business, if you have to separate and create new tandems, if 2 becomes 4, then this is actually a new future. Is one of the best things which comes out of divorce. But thank you very much for coming and sharing these ideas, because I believe that we have a lot of practical tricks from here, how we can establish a new goal and a target, and how you can find a partner who helps you to implement this, who has similar values. So this is a very good value that we have, these tools, which helps us to create goals and a targeted life, because that's most important, that we have certain value in our lives, because that's a good feeling. So thank you very much, and I believe that we'll meet again.
Ja te vaatate siis online-konverentsi.
You're following online conference where we talk to tandems, about tandems and management in tandem. And if you think about actors 100 years ago, then it is clear that they were artists. If you think about actors today, then actors are, of course, artists, but they also have to be entrepreneurs, because almost every actor has their own LLC. And now we're going to see Jan Uuspõld and Terje Tikk.